friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. I'm glad you're here. Tonight I decided to come out on the porch because it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. And I wanted to talk to you guys about the stuff that I have been reading this week and just kind of like life update, chit chat, whatever. It's been a good week of reading and otherwise. I've stayed home most of the week, but I've got a lot of stuff done around the house, so that's really nice. Just sort of preparing for holidays to come. The last couple of days I've been making broth like crazy, so I made a bunch of beef bone broth, and then yesterday and today I've been making chicken bone broth. So here in a few hours I gotta go get the rest of that off the stove and get it all, put in the canner and all that, so I can get out of the way by tomorrow night so that my kitchen will be ready on Thursday for cooking. The late fall, winter months are usually when I do a lot of canning of things that I've just sort of like shoved in the freezer over the summer, right? Like if I got a good deal and I knew that I wanted to can this stuff, make salsa or whatever, and just didn't have the time, then I just put things in the freezer. I try to buy up a lot of bones. Like when I do my meat orders, I do a meat order through a local farmer co-op thing. So when I do those, I try to buy up a lot of bones and just put them all in the freezer, and then I spend the winter making all the broth and things for the year. Just something, right? Because there's no harvest happening, so I do that instead. So anyway, I've been doing that and just, doing little things here and there to get ready for upcoming cozy holiday family time. I've been making ornaments for some of my family members, and I've been having a really good time with that. I'm excited to show them to you guys, but I will show you like after we decorate the tree, because obviously if somebody has some wild hair to watch one of my videos, which probably never happens, I don't want them to see what I made for them. But I've been beading and embroidering, and I don't really know how to do either one of those, so it's been fun sort of learning kind of how to do it. But I'm really proud of the ones I've done so far, so I'll show you guys those next week sometime. I've been working on my Etsy shop a little bit. I was gonna do a whole video on like bookish gift ideas and incorporate some of the other booktubers I know who have stuff out there, but I haven't got to it. And like Thanksgiving's in 2 days, and then there's like Black Friday this weekend, and I'm not gonna get it done. But the things that I have in my shop, I was gonna show you guys. I'll just put some pictures up here. I've got some blind dates with books, and I just put those in, and I'm actually really surprised on how well they are selling. I have in there now some Christmas ones and some like Christian clean romance ones, maybe one more nonfiction that kind of would appeal to like guys and girls. So you guys can check those out, and they're really simple. Like the stuff that they come with is just really simple, but that also makes them a little more affordable. So I've also got some book sleeves that I've sewn up in there, several different cute designs. And these are really good for like if you have, like you want to put your Bible and your journal and your pens and your highlighters and your sticky notes and everything all together for like a Bible study, pouch, or same thing with your book if you're doing annotating or whatever, or you just want to take a couple of books with you. If you'll get the bigger ones. If you just want one book with you, you can get the smaller one. But they're good to have for your bag, because that way you can just stick it in the pouch and put it in your bag, and you don't have to worry about the corners getting all bent up and stuff inside of your bag. And then I think the last bookish things in there, I have a couple of pairs of like little book earrings that sort of like open out as a locket. Anyway, you guys can check all that out if you're interested. Other booktubers, I know that Anne from In Search of Wonder has blind dates with books in her shop, and Bookish Kelley has a book on Amazon that she wrote that I discovered when I was stalking her description box. And then Miranda Mills, who I like to watch a lot as well, she has the Country Commonplace book that she has published. It was published in September, and you can buy it on Amazon. She's from the UK, and I don't know if it's necessarily Bible based, but it's just like a cozy little book of all kinds. Anyway, I'll put the links so you guys can check it all out in the description box. Let's talk about something else now. Let's talk about Bookmas. Haha. I made a video the other day about Bookmas. If you guys are interested in joining Bookmas or watching other Christian channels who may or may not be doing Bookmas, I'm going to put kind of like a list at the end of my videos for the next month or so of people who are, Christian YouTubers who, even if it's not Bookmas, like if they just indicated like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever, just to kind of help us like make a pool of Christian booktubers. So, put your favorite Christian booktubers down in the description box. Let us know. It's not something that I will keep at the end of every video like forever, but just for the next month or so, I'd really like to sort of, what's the right word? Just put together a list of Christian booktubers, just to kind of help us. I know the end of the year, a lot of times, we'll go through, we'll sort of, unfollow people, look for new people to follow, sort of, make a plan for a direction that we want our, lives to go in all the different ways. And I know for me, one of the things I'd really like to do is watch more Christian booktubers and just encourage them and, like make friends, that kind of thing. So the list is really for me, but I'll share it with you. Okay, let's talk about the stuff that I have been reading for the last week or so. I finished I finished 5 books, but a few of them are kind of like really small. But anyway, they were good experiences, even though they might have only taken like 30 minutes or less. All right, so the first one I finished is Followed by the Lark by Helen Humphreys. This is not what I thought it would be. And what I thought it would be would probably be better than this. I didn't really enjoy it so much. I only gave this 2 stars. So this is a story about Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau. All right, we say Thoreau. Apparently it's Thoreau or Thoreau, rhyming with Poirot, which is so confusing and I can't do it. So I'm just going to say Thoreau because that's what I've said all of my life. I thought it says that's a novel, okay? So when I'm thinking about a novel, I'm thinking like a story, but it's really not. Basically, this woman just rewrote his journals. Letters and journals, and like I told you guys when I showed you this last week that it was kind of like these little snippets. I thought that would be a good way to read this. It's not. This is like, these are episodes. They're just little episodes over and over. The entire book is just episodic. There's no actual storyline here besides the fact that we're just moving through his life. It's all of these are just little episodes changing the subject over and over, sometimes with days or months in between. So it really is like she just sort of took his journals, rewriting them kind of. I don't know. The first 30 pages or so of it was pretty good, but then it just became so repetitive and they left so much out of his life. Like, if you didn't know anything about the guy, you would just assume that he just mooched off his mother and sister and wandered around in nature and had no friends and had no employment and had no, he just social life, no like ability to function in society. Like, it was so bad. Really, really didn't enjoy it. I could have got so much more if I would have just went and read his journals, right? Because it's just his journals in the third person is all it is. She didn't like fill it in with like, here are the things that may have happened in between these 2 journal entries. Like, it just could have been a novel and it's not a novel, which means it should not say on there, right, that it's a novel. A lot of things, were left out. Consistent employment, details about like he like revolutionized the pencil. His father owned a pencil company and they made square pencils, and he like redesigned it to make it a circular pencil so that it would be easier to sharpen, and just other stuff involving the pencil that is like kind of important and probably took him a while. And there's no mention, there's like a slight little nod to the fact that his dad owns a pencil company and he has an idea that might make it easier to sharpen. Like, that's it. But it didn't tell any of the details on any of that. It didn't even mention Nathaniel Hawthorne anywhere. Like, come on. What a slight. And so it's like the same thing day in and day out, which turns like his beautiful words about nature and his really intriguing and interesting philosophies, it just makes them annoying, mundane, boring rambles, right? Because that's all it is. I really think the book did a disservice to Thoreau, and I wasn't impressed. I will be keeping it on I have a little section of my library that's devoted to Hawthorne and his transcendentalist friends, but I don't think I'm going to reread it, ever. All right, next up was this book I got for my birthday. It's called Lost in Translation by Ella Frances Sanders. This is that one I showed you guys where it will have like a word that's in another language, right? And then it's words that we don't have the equivalent for in English. So for instance, this word, pelag, means anything and everything you can put on a slice of bread. Like in English, we don't have a word for anything and everything you can put on a slice of bread, but they do. It's pelag in Norwegian, right? Okay, so that's interesting. Like it's an interesting little coffee table book. When I put it on my wish list, that's not what I thought this was. I thought it was more of like a study, like a, kind of a word study. I thought it was thicker, with more, but every page is like this, where you have the drawing and, the word, whatever, and this cursive writing. And then over here, like, it's just like a little snippet sort of thing that is kind of, it's like a set of memes put into a book. But one of the real big issues that I have with this book is, like, that is hard to read, okay? I read this entire book with a flashlight. I'm not joking you. Because I couldn't see it. Like, you can't see that, right? But they're all like that. Like, come on, guys. I'm 46 years old. So anyway, it's kind of a fun book to have just sort of sitting around, like maybe on the coffee table, which I don't actually have a coffee table right now, but I probably will someday when I don't have a bunch of kids in the house. But like, this is the introduction. It's like 4-point font and white. Like, it's really hard to read. And this, it's like a kind of a cartoony sort of font. Can you see that? Yeah. Anyway, it was fun, and I do appreciate the opportunity to read it, and I will keep it around, but I don't know. It's not exactly what I thought it was. Okay, here's kind of a fib, and I'm not actually counting this on like my Goodreads total, but I did count it on my, that's what I was going to talk to you guys about. My 25, read your book shelf challenge, read what you own challenge, 25. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. I am counting this as a one of those reads. This is a pamphlet that I got from my friend who lives in Finland. She sent me a package years ago of like just stuff from Finland because I was interested in learning. And so this is a pamphlet about one of their cities. And I read it. It's been on my TBR for years, so it counts as the read what you own, clear your TBR thing. So I did forget to talk about that. I was going to talk about that at the beginning of the video. I think I have done 21, since November 5th. 21 either reading them, DNFing them, or just unhauling without even starting. So I only have like 4 more to go, which it's only the 25th. I probably can be done with that challenge in just this 1 month, which means that I can add everything that I have been compiling into my my TBR. So that's cool. Like, I've never done that before. I won't tell you about all the DNFs from this week. There were a lot of them. Okay. Next book I finished was Florence Nightingale's Cassandra. So this was an essay that she wrote, and then it was published by the Feminist Press in 1979. Almost half of it is commentary from somebody, they had comment before they published it, probably to pad it out and make it a book worth binding. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Florence Nightingale, before I read this, in my imagination, was a very kind, sweet, gentle, benevolent, peaceful nurse who sacrificed other things she'd been doing with her life in order to care for people. And I still think that she made a very large sacrifice to, for other things she could be doing to care for people. But her personality, she's a really angry person, and a little bit contradictory. She contradicted herself. She contradicted herself here. Sometimes she had a hard time. She'd sort of like get on other people for stuff when she's kind of doing the same thing. So the overall complaint that she has in this essay is that women are encouraged. Okay, she says women are forced. I would say that women were encouraged to not work, to not do a whole lot outside of their homes. If you do want to go to work for your own family and, help build your own family's empire rather than going out to work and building someone else's empire, which I actually agree with that. If your whole point is just to build an empire. But, she just had a real problem with the fact that society was encouraging women to do things that she thought were not worthwhile. Okay, a lot of those things are things that you viewers and I find to be quite wonderful, like sitting around and doing puzzles, or reading our books, or doing handcrafts, or baking things in our kitchen, or sitting on the back porch and watching the sun go down, or just playing with our kids, or chatting with our husbands, or spending a day with a friend, or filling up our, non-work times with leisure. She had a real problem with that. She didn't think that you were doing anything with your life if you were that kind of a woman. So I would say mind your own business. Some of the things that she said, I agreed with, but for different reasons. For instance, she says that women never have a half hour in all their lives that they can call their own without fear of offending or hurting someone. Such a life must exclude any serious work or study, since the demands of either would make a woman unavailable to others. A man's time is valuable. A woman's time, however, is defined as a thing of no value, which must be filled up. Now, part of this, I kind of get this, but I've had a completely different life experience than her. She would think I was a total traitor to the sex if she knew me. But I married at 18. I carried my first baby at 19. I had my first baby at 20. And ever since then, I've been momming and wifing and homeschooling and homemaking, and I've been here. I've done a lot of other stuff too. I've published a lot of things. I've influenced a lot of people. I've had a lot of industries. I've traveled all over the place. I've had successful home businesses. I've taught on multiple levels, multiple classes, and multiple places and ages, and I've done a lot of stuff, but it has all been based out of my own home. And this whole idea about not having a moment to call your own, and if you do have one, maybe you feel a little bit guilty, right? Because you must make yourself available to others. I do get that. I do feel that way, but I'm not bitter about it. It's the life that I live, and I know that it is going to be over very quickly. I've only got 6 years left until my youngest is an adult, and then I'm gonna have all kinds of years for this sort of leisure. And so while I understand this, I do also recognize that it's a season. This whole idea of a man's time being valuable, but a woman's time must be filled up. I do understand that line of thinking, but I think we do it to ourselves. I don't think that my husband really cares whether or not I'm doing anything. As long as I keep my end of the bargain, right? Because I'd have a real problem if he decided not to go to work today. Well, I wouldn't, but if he decided not to go to work for like a month and didn't have an alternate plan for providing for us, then I'd have a real problem with that. Just like he'd have a real problem if I skipped making dinner a few nights in a row, but after a few nights, he'd be kind of like, what's for dinner? You know, and not necessarily that I make it all the time, but just to make sure somebody does, right? One of my kids or whatever. So, you know, we have our responsibilities to each other, but I don't think that he expects every moment of every one of my days to be filled up. And I'm gonna guess that most men throughout history haven't cared either. I think it's women. I think it's women that puts this on women. It's your mother saying, if you want to be a good wife, here's the 10 steps. It's your grandmother saying, that's not how we did it back in my day, right? It's the online influencers that are saying, this is what it means to be a real woman, a real homemaker, a real wife, a real mom, a real homeschooler, whatever, right? We put these things on ourselves, ladies. Men probably don't even care all that much. They just kind of want to, I know for my husband anyway, he just wants a happy home. He just wants people to be nice. He doesn't want me grumpy. And he just wants, you know, something to eat, clean clothes, clean bed, and everybody to be happy. That's not hard. It's me that puts all the heavier demands on me. But anyway, I kind of felt like as I was reading through this, I had questions, right? Like, at one point I said that women have always had the ability to advocate for change. What are they going to do? Kill us all? Like, what are the men going to do if you start advocating for a change? Are they really going to round us all up, lock us up, and throw away the key? No one ever did that. I mean, on a grand scale, like, women got their freedom when women demanded their freedom. So they just finally demanded. I did think it was kind of funny, like, people go on and on about the yellow wallpaper, that short story about the woman who's on the rest cure and she's, you know, in her bedroom and the wallpaper starts like making her go crazy and all these kinds of things. And they blame it on the man. It's a man's fault, even though he comes and checks on her all the time and calls her sweetheart and tries to care for her. But anyway, we just leave that part out. The yellow wallpaper is kind of a joke now reading this. I mean, the yellow wallpaper has always kind of been a joke to me, but reading this, Florence Nightingale, after she returned from the Crimea, she became an invalid. She remained bedridden until she was well into her 60s. Do you know why? Because she was fighting with her mother and she didn't want to have to deal with her. Some psychoanalyst sees her illness as a psychoneurosis with a purpose, a protective illness that freed her from the presence of her family, and while isolating her as an invalid in her room, permitted her to do her work. So she gave herself a rest cure for years. And then once her mom died, she went back and did her thing in the world again. It says, it was only after Mrs. Nightingale's death that Florence Nightingale, then in her 60s, left her bed and re-entered the world. It appears then that much of Florence Nightingale's criticism of women was evoked by the examples of her mother and sister and originated in her difficult relationship with them. Now, how many times have I told you guys that I really think it's the women putting these restraints on women? It's not men stifling women, it's women stifling women. This kind of turns the yellow wallpaper into a joke, in my opinion, because you can't go off about the rest cure when literally like the most famous and beloved nurse in history gave herself a rest cure just to avoid her family. I just have little like whiny notes in here to the feminists of the day and today. She says that women have no ability to have a social life. They are taught from their infancy upward that it is wrong, ill-tempered, and a misunderstanding of a woman's mission if they do not allow themselves willingly to be interrupted at all hours. That is extremely extreme. But my answer is complain then. You have not because you ask not, right? Stop oppressing yourselves. If you want to go have a different life, go have one. And people will say, that was super naive, that's super shallow of me to say. Show me where the men are oppressing the women. I would love to see it. so at times I was really annoyed with her, but at other times I was like, yes, I agree with you. Like, for instance, she was talking about women always dreaming but never accomplishing. So women live too much ashamed of their dreams, which they think are just romantic, and they don't want to get laughed at. And so but she says, if they were strong, all of them, they would not need to have their story told, for all the world would read it in the mission they have fulfilled. Yes. Just as today, we can't blame our failure to act on other people, right? If you want something, go get it. But I think that she had some bitterness and just kind of a pessimistic view on marriage. She wrote some pretty pessimistic things about marriage. She talked about how a husband and wife can't have any real communion, especially after they are married. She says that, we just expect the marriage to go off. And if a husband actually recognizes that he is at fault, he would never, ever, ever admit it. I don't know. Like, it's just so pessimistic. She says things like, the time has come when women must do something more than the domestic hearth, which means nursing the infants, keeping a pretty house, having a good dinner, and entertaining party. There is nothing wrong with any of those things, ladies. In fact, it's kind of funny how trendy it is that people are trying to come out of that. Trying to come out of, whatever it was that the feminist movement built up and just come back to being homemakers, wives, mothers, or even single women at home, working at home sorts of jobs so that they can be in their homes and keeping house and doing these simple hobbies and these granny things and there's nothing wrong with any of that. I know that I just sort of analyzed a Victorian essay from a 21st century woman point of view, but the problem is that so many women today still go back to that stuff to make a case, and there's just no case to be made. I really don't think there was much of a case to be made then. I think the real big problem was women being too afraid to buck the status quo. Why do we celebrate these women who bucked the status quo? Because they bucked the they were able to do it, right? Like, why do we have their stories? Because they were able to do it. Just do it. The problem isn't that people aren't able to do it. The problem is that people won't do it. Like I said earlier, women got their freedom when they required it. So anyway, okay. Gosh, every time I talk about anything that has to do with feminism, I get so mad. I'm an angry anti-feminist. I'm an angry pro-woman. All right, guys, let's move on. So the last book that I finished was this little book with my daughter last night called Autumn Story it's a Brambley Hedge book by Jill Barklam. I love these stories. They are so sweet. The artwork is so cute and cozy and inspiring. And you just see these pictures of people's homes and you just want to totally make your home like that. I say people, they're animals, they're mice, but, I can still be inspired by mice. So we read this cute little story about a young mouse who goes missing, but she's off having a great day. She has tea with the neighbors and she ends up in a labyrinth and all these things while her family is very nervous and worried about her and they all go out hunting for her. But it was cute. Me and my youngest daughter love to read these. So we have a couple more to read for this season. Those are the things I've finished. I've also been reading from Notes from Walnut Tree Farm by Roger Deacon. And for the most part, I would highly recommend this. There's just a couple of crude humor things, but they're just brief and they're not that big of a deal. It's probably my own prudishness more than than anything else. So for the most part, it's a really great book. So it's one of these that follows the seasons. If you're looking for something to kind of dip in and out of throughout the year, I think this would be a good one. I started in October, so it looks like I'm almost finished, but that's just because it ends in December and it starts in January. So I gotta go back to the beginning in January and read through, September in 2026. And then I've been reading a little from Tolstoy, his essays about what is art. I don't know if I have anything, I don't have any tabs in here, but I think maybe I just forgot to put them in. He can be a bit pretentious. talking about what he thinks about art, the difference between the average man and a specialist, which of course he considers himself to be a specialist, it seems. He's kind of separating what is good and useful art, and that's kind of the question, right? Is like, what is good and useful? He says, art in all its forms borders on one hand on the practically useful, and on the other on unsuccessful attempts at art. So it's kind of like, who decides what is an unsuccessful attempt at art? Only the potential artist, right? But it's interesting because he started off this little essay, this first essay, describing a scene like at a theater where you've got like this company of players, and I think it's a ballet maybe. And anyway, you've got this group of people, right, practicing, they're rehearsing, and they'll go a little ways, and then the person in charge is like, wait, you are have horrible form, and straighten your back and lift your, chin and smile for the camera, whatever. Like they're very critical, right? And then do it again. So then they start in again, and then the person in charge is like, wait, you blah, blah, blah. And they're just continuously critical and insulting. And, the people rehearsing have been there for hours, and they hate the person in charge, and the person in charge hates them, and everybody hates being there. But then we all go to watch this art being performed, and we're like, this is amazing. These people are so beautiful. Everything's so beautiful. The music and the atmosphere and the costumes and the gracefulness of these dancers, and we're just like, we're taking it all in as this, amazing work of art, when as it was being produced, it was with a lot of criticism and a lot of mean, angry, hateful attitudes, a lot of bitterness. The man and woman who are dancing together, who appear to be so romantic, actually hate each other's guts, and he's got bad breath and he thinks she's a snob and whatever. Like, he's just talking about how can that be considered art, because the heart behind it is not right. And I kind of think that's where he's going with a lot of his philosophies on art, is that there's more to just the beauty of what we see. There's also, the reality of what it is, and that has to do with the spiritual behind it, the morality behind it. And I think it's so hard. I don't know if I agree. I don't know what parts I agree on. So I've got to just read some more and think about it. But that was the whole point, right? When I bought this, I wanted to read it as a study in philosophy, and it's definitely that. All right, and then I'm also reading this biography of Anne Bronte called Take Courage by Samantha Ellis, and I got this in England. I'm about 52 pages in. I don't think I've actually marked anything, but so far, the author kind of started out like a lot of us, thinking that Anne was kind of like the third sister, like, the sort of the forgotten sister, the one that, didn't do so much and didn't talk so much and didn't feel so much and was probably, emotionally wishy-washy or didn't care or whatever. Like, just, we kind of, some of us, me for sure, built up this idea in our head of Anne Bronte, and of her of just having contributed less than Emily and Charlotte. I know for me, I just finished rereading Agnes Grey. I think I've read it twice at least, maybe 3 times. And I was just like, slog. I just didn't enjoy it. And I didn't really find it to be super profound. And anyway, that's how this author started off. And so, so far she's talked about her journey of kind of giving thoughts to that. Like, why do I feel that way about Anne? And who was Anne? And why don't we know a lot about her? And so she's taking, each chapter is like different people in Anne's life and how they had some kind of an effect. So the first one is her mother, who died when Anne was really little, like a year and a half or something. Her name was Mariah. And so it talks about her and that effect on her. And then now they're talking about Aunt Branwell and like her effect on the family. You know, it'll talk about the siblings and other people, and it's kind of it's a lot of information that is extra, right? So if you're not like a big Brontes fan, you're probably just like, I could read the Wikipedia article and be good. So if you are a Bronte fan though, there's a lot of good info here and some that I was not aware of. So I think it's definitely a worthwhile read if you're a Bronte fan, even if you don't really have an opinion on Anne either way. So I kind of feel like I've spent like the whole month of November just reading random. Like, there hasn't been anything I think that has really struck me. Like, let me go back through here. Yeah, there's really nothing that has really stood out to me in my reading so far for November. So I'm kind of like nervous about that. I need something really good to sort of keep me. I feel like I'm approaching a slump, and so I guess I'm not super glad that the month has gone by quickly, but I do have a huge pile of books that I've been saving for December. So I'm looking forward to that, and they're going to come just at the right time, I think, because a slump is threatening. And if I could get through the next 5 days, I can keep myself out of slumpy land. All right, guys, so let me know what you're reading in the comments. Hope everybody's doing good. Make sure and check out those bookish gift ideas I mentioned, and let me know if you're going to be participating in Bookmas. Hope you're having a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.